What's up, Jared?
What's up, brother?
How's it going since Coaching Con?
It's good, dude. I just got back from the dentist like 15 minutes ago. So
They didn't have to inject your mouth with anything, did they?
no, actually what was funny was there was this one procedure I'm having done and I was a little worried. I was like, they're like, we could numb it, we could not. It just depends on your pain tolerance. And I'm like, I don't want to go onto this podcast with like half my like with stroke vibes where half my face is just like, what's up, guys? You know what I'm saying? So luckily though, we were good. No numbing. We're fine.
I had that one time I had to do like a live call when I was working in person. I was like half my face and I'm like, okay, guys. So like trying to like
Mhm.
coach people through it, like it's awful.
Oh yeah, the worst. So
All right. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what got you into the coaching space.
yeah. So my story's a little bit interesting, and I'll give you the consolidated version. So just a little bit about me. I'm a dog dad. I got three dogs. I'm a blue belt in jujitsu. My favorite hobbies basically means I just like to roll around with other men wearing angry pajamas. Is essentially what that means. I am a podcast host, so I love hearing myself talk essentially. And then the biggest thing with me is I've been helping people never struggle losing weight again for the past decade. So for me, I've built and scaled my coaching business, which is we attack everything from the deeper level, which is what I'm most passionate about talking about. So at the end of the day, for most people listening, your issues aren't just calories and workouts. Like, yes, weight loss boils down to eat less, move more, but for a lot of people, that's like telling a depressed person just be happy, and it's not very helpful when you have this arsenal of issues causing someone from eating less and moving more. So that's my favorite thing to talk about is getting to the underlying causes of all this stuff that most coaches, most people don't talk about. It's my favorite thing, but to answer your other question, like how I got into coaching, for me, like it's a really long story, but I'll keep it short. Is I thought I was going to be a physical therapist. So I was a real awkward homeschool kid growing up, and then it was time to go to college, and I'm like, well, I don't know what I want to do with my life. So I was really into like physiology and biomechanics and like muscles. I thought I was a meathead in the gym. So what every meathead in the gym does, they're like, I'm going to become a physical therapist. I swear everyone does that.
I
So
feel that.
yep. So I thought I was going to become a physical therapist because it was the most tolerable, which is totally not the best way to go about choosing a career path in this day and age. Like you can do anything. So for me, that's what I was going to do. Because I spent a lot of time in physical therapy offices as the patient. So I'm like, oh, I could vibe with this. Well, and then I found out the physical therapy requirement is you have to get your PhD. And for me, it just didn't make logical sense. Go $200,000 in debt to make like maybe 80 grand a year. This doesn't, it just didn't seem logical for something that wasn't passionate about. But that's what everyone in college does is they want to stay safe and do shit they hate their whole life. So I went down that route, fell in love with personal training. It was a prereq of mine, this basically personal trainer class. So fell in love with personal training. I've always been entrepreneurial since I was a little kid, like doing like crazy, like making money shit since I was like 13. So I've always had like that. Like I was going door to door asking to shovel people's driveways when I was like 14 years old, like just trying to do that. So that was so I started personal training, fell in love with it, loved changing people's lives, loved getting granular with them and helping them before they needed to go to the physical therapy office. And it was a game over from there. Loved it. Built an in-person business to like 200 sessions a month. I was 438 and 9p life. I was working for like three different gyms just on the grind. So did that for like 5 years straight, like did all of that. Then one thing led to another, and then I found out about this cool thing called online coaching because I was getting pretty burned out in person, if I'm being honest, just that early to that late. And just, it was basically a really decent paid dollars for hour or hours for dollars gig, which is, I just didn't want to be trapped by that. So then I got online, decided I wanted to go online coaching, learned how to create content, built my entire online coaching business off Instagram. So that's when my Instagram did its first jump, was when I started pouring into content, fell in love with creating content. And then once I got full time online, then I scaled it. And now I've got like a full staff and all those kinds of things. And now we help people all over the world do all this shit. So that's kind of my dating profile, if you will.
Your dating profile. That's
Long
awesome.
walks with chainsaws,
The in person, yeah, I was in person for 7 years. Actually, no, last job was 7 years. I was in person for about 9 years, but that
Wow.
schedule sucks.
Yeah.
You get burned. I didn't have it as bad as you. Mine was usually like wake up at 4:30 or a little bit earlier, but then I was like usually done around like 7:30. So
Oh
I didn't
wow.
have those like the
Still.
9, but still,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fucking rough. So big change in my coaching, like early 20s, I'm like coaching people like, here's your macros, here's your workouts, and kind of like same thing you talked about, like that seems like the least amount of coaching I do with people.
Mm-hmm.
It actually is more like what's going on like between your ears,
Yep.
like macros, workouts, you can find that shit for free online.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference with like how you actually get people results? Because they're probably coming to you, they've been trying all the diets, they've been stuck their entire lives, and then they
Yeah.
go to your program and now, oh shit, now I lose weight forever.
Yeah, definitely. Like, that's the thing is our average client, like when I started out, man, I wanted to be the athlete guy. I wanted to work with people who wanted to get big, fast, and strong, and I loved it. And I would get that, and it was cool. But I got way more internal satisfaction out of helping normal people enjoy life more. Like getting grandma to be able to like get on the ground and play with her grandkids, like
Yep.
filled my cup, or getting someone who binge ate for 20 years to free them from that. Like, fuck, that's what would set me on fire. So I let go of like training athletes and shit. Like it's cool, but it's also just kind of an ego stroke for a lot of people. So I kind of I let that go, and then I just dove into like your average person that just wants to lose 30 pounds and feel good because they don't, because that's hard. You know, a lot of this shit haunts you. You know, because I get it. Because here's the thing, I think of it like I'm the coach I needed when I was coming
Mm-mm.
up. I was a fat kid growing up. I was the chunky one of all my siblings, of all my friends. My friends were all either skinny or just athletically 8-packed built. And here's chunky husky Jared. Like one day I remember when I was a little kid telling my mom, like, Mom, am I fat? And she goes, No, honey, you're husky. And that because that's what my genes said. And I'm like 5'6", like I'm a short little fucker. So but I struggled a lot growing up with all the things, with all or nothing mentalities, binge eating, emotional stuff, sabotage. I grew up in like a bodybuilding gym, so a lot of
Mm.
nothing but diet culture nonsense. Because even if like someone's like your average 30, 38-year-old Mrs. Jones, the stuff like carb store fat, eat 6 times a day, all the bullshit came from bodybuilding in the 60s. That's literally
Mm.
where it all came from, was Arnold fucked everybody up. So but at the end of the day, man, how really, like, to actually answer your question, not like keep tangenting off, but when it comes to people who come into our ecosystem, it's what I would call your average person who just can't get the shit right. They've dieted for probably if years, if not decades. They struggle with like what I call the big ticket items: the emotional eating, the binge eating, the sabotage, the all or nothing mentality, the food relationships, scared to eat, the scale takes control over their brain, like all the things. Because most of our people have been there, done that. But also, I would say a huge population of our coaching, our coaching clients have had other coaches, which can just make things even worse in a lot of cases. So we've got a lot of groundwork to fix and undoing to have happened, which is why the results that we create are so permanent, because we do what I call diet from the inside out. That's kind of like my IP, if you will, like my intellectual property or whatever. It's something I've coined. It's why the first stage of our coaching program is called Dieting from the Inside Out. My podcast is called Dieting from the Inside Out. And the number one thing causing most people to not get to where they want to be is they have not dieted from the inside out yet. And a lot of times people, when I talk about this, are still like, I don't quite get what that means. And here's the simplest way to put it. I would ask someone, would you ever move into a house that doesn't have a foundation? And everyone's like, no, that's stupid. I'm like, well, then why are we trying to do diets that and follow programs that have no foundation? Your foundation's binge eating. Your foundation is a horrible relationship with food, a fucked up metabolism. You're scared to eat. Because what really gets people to open their eyes to this, and I would urge your listeners to ask themselves this, and really think about it. If I could snap, like, think about, for those listening, think about the amount of weight you want to lose, what you're trying to do. Let's just say 50 pounds. If I could snap my fingers and all that weight disappears, would you be good? And then would it stay off? Most people go, oh no, I wouldn't be good. I would be scared to eat. I would have no idea how to keep it off. Nope, I would still be binge eating. I would still find a way to sabotage it. Well, then my question is, if if you just admitted magic genie powers, like snap your fingers, does not solve your problem, then why are we trying to white knuckle through weight loss? Why don't we diet from the inside out, fix all that shit first? Now we've earned the right into going to weight loss. This is and then this is basically the system how I built it. We coach people very differently. Like I'm not, I don't obviously know how every person on the planet coaches, but our program, I've yet to see another one like it in terms of how we go about this. Because my thing is, why don't we stop the binge eating, fix the sabotage and emotional eating, fix your relationship with food, fix your metabolism, fix your mindset, your headspace, your identity, all those things. Well, if I could snap my fingers and those get fixed, isn't it logical to think that weight loss would just like happen as a byproduct? And
Right.
it's like, yeah, well, then why don't we do that? It makes it a hell of a lot easier. I did a mid program check in with one of our clients. And this was case by case thing that happened, and she struggled like norm, like everyone else. And she's still in stage 1 of our coaching program. She's not allowed to go into fat loss yet. Like that's the rules. I will not let you go. Like we will not let you go into fat loss until you go through stage 1 first. Well, it's crazy. She's in stage 1, losing weight left and right. And she's like, she goes, I don't binge eat anymore. I stopped emotional eating. I've implemented the strategies that you've taught. I can get on the ground and play with my kids again. My relationship with my kids has even changed because mom is now a different person emotionally. And then she's like, oh, I'm also down 10 pounds and 3 inches off my waist. And we haven't even tried yet. We have not even tried to lose weight yet. But not binging it anymore and fixing your identity and being worthy of the results that you have is a hell of a calorie deficit.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. I try to walk clients through something similar. It's never no coach is ever going to be the same, but yeah, phase 1 of my program is very similar of like, we're going to work on what's going on inside your head.
Yeah.
Which is a big reason I wanted you on the podcast, because I like build, like you said, a foundation, because otherwise it's everything else. Like if I gave you macros and the perfect workout system, everything is built on a house of cards. It's like one little speed bump comes along in your life and everything comes crumbling down.
Yep.
So it's like work on the foundation, build these habits, fix your identity, like you said, stop the negative self-talk, and then we can actually like move on, but you'll still get results. Like you're still gonna lose inches, lose body fat, feel better, have more energy, like all that stuff happens. But then phase 2 is kind of like more like throwing fuel on the fire. Like you're gonna speed things up now.
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely, man. It's the best way to do it. I mean, it's like any order of operations. You know what I mean? Like it's like going to build a house. Could you imagine throwing a house together and be like, you know what, the foundation's going to take a while and it's going to be under the ground anyway, so why even put it there? It's like, well, it's pretty freaking important. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know if you're married or not, but like, imagine like if you have like a partner, like I have a wife, but imagine if we're like, you know what, we don't need to work on our communication skills. It's fine. We're just gonna, you know, feed each other and have sex, and our marriage is going to be great, and we're not going to worry about communication. And it's like
I am married, and that will not work.
No, but that's the thing, man, is that's how everyone approaches this. They're like, oh, I leave for vacation in 3.5 weeks. Let me go get fucking shredded and do a detox. Like, no, this is why you're struggling. I think it's ironic that if you zoom out, cut off emotions, and objectively look at the data, the people who try to lose weight the fastest struggle the longest. You know what I mean? It's just because we're not doing the order of the operations right. We're rushing something that's meant to be slow, and we're not fixing the foundational issues at hand. So
100%. There's so much going, especially if you've been struggling for like you said, decades. Like someone comes in, they're 50 years old. We just brought on a client who is in their 50s, and it's like, yeah, there's probably like 3-4 decades of shit that's in your head that we have to undo. Because I think research shows women first start dieting around 13 or 16. I think that's when they start their like first diet, which is really scary.
Dude,
I have a daughter.
Yeah. Do we have a lot of people, like a lot of our clients will say, Jared, my mom took me to my first Weight Watchers meeting at 9. I had a lady that just started coaching with us, and her mom her mom was on like diet pills, like from prescriptions from the doctor, and which is a whole nother thing in and of itself. But the mom's like broke one in half and said, here, chunky daughter, just take this, and was giving her prescription doctor pills just broken in half when she was like 6, because she was a chunky 6-year-old. And this is where it gets really scary, is because now these issues are part of your identity, going from, let's be conservative, 15 years old to 50 years old, 40 years old. You've got decades of old, you're not up against just calories and weight or in strength training. You're up against this basically clone of yourself, this old you. This is what we talk about inner child and weight loss. From like a psychological perspective, you have this version of yourself who's holding on to these identities of what certain things are, what's true, what's not, who it thinks you are. Like, oh, I'm Karen the dieter. Well, or I'm Beth the emotional eater, whatever. Like, it's not just something you do, it's who you are, because you've dieted your whole life. So you take on this identity of a dieter. Well, here's a scary fact about sabotage and identity. if your identity is a dieter, what do you think is going to happen when you lose the weight and don't need a diet anymore? The identity is now threatened. You'll unconsciously find a way to gain the weight back so you can go on a diet again.
Yep.
It's because the identity is a protective thing. We unconsciously guard it by all costs, like mama bear style. So if your identity doesn't serve you, that's why you'll make some progress and lose it all. Make some progress, lose it all. You'll do great. Something happens and you go back to square one. It's just like this system. This is why the way that we teach, I have this thing, this course that I sell, and one of the modules in it, we talk about this. It's the science of sabotage, because there's an exact science to why subconscious sabotage happens, and then we can stop it once you know how the beast works. So
I'm reading a book. I think it's called like The Mountain is the Way or something. And it literally,
the obstacle is the way.
It's not that one. No, it's
No?
a new
That's
one.
a great book too.
That one, I've read that. I've read that one 5 years ago, I think. Good book.
Ryan Holiday, I think. Right?
Yes. Yeah. Ryan Holiday for that one. It should be behind me, actually.
We have the same setup.
Yes, we do.
But I don't have a badass bow on my wall. That's the difference.
Yeah, and you don't have dead animals on the wall.
Fair.
But the whole book is just like on self-sabotage. So I'm actually like reading about that right now, and like the different ways. She lists out like 18 different ways like people self-sabotage. I'm like, oh my God, this is like all my clients, also myself. Like I'm seeing myself here, like self-sabotaging inside the business and everything, but clients definitely like one's like the uprooter, like, okay, like I'm just like shiny object syndrome, like try a diet up keto 1 month, and then it's like fasting another month, and then it's a detox because you didn't get results, and then I come back from vacation and now it's low carb, and always chasing that shiny object syndrome. But there's like 17 other ones. I'm like, holy shit, no wonder people are fucked up.
Right.
Like there's a
What book
lot
is
of work
that?
to do. Mountain is the way. It's way over there somewhere. I'll send it to you after the podcast.
Yeah, please. I that's my wheelhouse. I'd love to read that.
And now I just blanked where we were at.
Well, we were talking about like the different
Sabotage.
styles of sabotage.
Yeah.
So.
Do you identify like different styles of sabotage with your clients, or do you kind of just like go in and like address self-sabotage kind of like blanket statement?
Both. I don't necessarily label like, so what's funny is binge eating. I actually have, there's 4 animals to binge eating. There's 4, like for like when it comes to binge eating, there's 4 reasons you binge eat, for example. So we just got to kill the reason. Right. But with sabotage, I think for me, it's more of a pattern recognition thing, because there are a million ways people sabotage. But I think part of it is just understanding like what triggers sabotage, how it works, and how understanding like the animal itself, because now you can conquer it. You know what I mean? It's like I see the deer on your wall. Like it's like if your goal is to kill a deer, well, you need to know when they like to come out, when they go to sleep, what kind of food they like to eat. You know, is it an animal you can just walk around and hunt like a squirrel, or is it one where you got to hide for hours and just hope and pray one comes across? Well, then like, where's the best terrain for it? Where's the paths they walk on? So you understand the patterns around deers. So did I say that deers? I don't know the plural.
It's
right,
just
whatever.
deer.
Right. Right. But you understand the pattern behind deer, so it's why you killed one. Well, most people listening would love to kill sabotage, but you don't understand where it lives, what makes it come out, what makes it hide, what leads up to it, what precedes it, what postcedes it, if that's a word, what like where all the how it looks, walks, talks, smells. Well, of course you're going to get beaten in the face by it because you don't get it. This is why my big thing is the science of sabotage, understanding all that. Then it's like, oh, so that's the one thing I got to do to kill it. Yeah, that's it. So
where would someone like start? Like if this is basically everyone listening has some sort of self-sabotage. Where would someone start with like maybe identifying it so they can work on starting to kill it?
Yeah. So there's a few ways. Number one, understand that it will never stop. Here's what I mean by that. That sounds really discouraging. This is what I mean by it. Let me give you an example or an analogy. Our mouths always sabotage. We brush our teeth every day because what happens when we stop brushing our teeth and stop paying attention to our oral health? It will unconsciously start to sabotage. So we keep our thumb on it. We're brushing twice a day. We're flossing, some more than others. And apparently I ask my dentist, apparently I haven't been, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's just the natural progression. If you're not constantly working on something, it will slowly decline. One of my biggest things in weight loss is people get to the point they want to be, and then they quit doing the things that got them there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like, think about like your marriage, like everyone's relationship is fire when they first meet. And then all of a sudden, a year, couple years into marriage or dating, you're not excited anymore. You're not looking forward to date night. You're not doing those things to impress the girl. You quit doing the things that got you there. It's no different here. So understanding that you don't get to a place where you can just let your foot off the gas. This is why making sure your plan is sustainable is the most important thing, because you're going to have to keep doing the shit that got you here. Like, of course, I'm not saying someone's going to be necessarily counting calories forever, or working out as much forever, but from a general principle side of things, your maintenance is going to look a lot like how you got here. So we got to make sure that you did it in a really good way. I always say you have to live in the house you build. If you build a transformation under stress, chaos, overwhelm, micromanaging and debilitating anxiety, well, sorry, sweetheart, but you just built that house. Now you got to live there. Now when it comes to sabotage, though, if someone's like, Jared, where the fuck do I even start with sabotage? Understand it's a pattern, as in it's not random. It's literally like computer software that is meant to run and run and run and run. Now, okay, there's several reasons for sabotage. Some of it's rooted in your identity. It's who you think you are, because then we unconsciously do those things. But then there's also one of the side of things where conditioning happens. So my question is, someone's like, where do I start? I go, what always happens? If you like shut the emotion off, quit, don't put meanings to anything, zoom out. What's happened the last 5 years you've tried to diet? I bet there's 3 to 5 things that's happened every single time. Some examples: you may do well for a few months and then you lose motivation, and that's where it goes. You may do well until you see progress, scale drops, and you go, oh my gosh, and because you view yourself as not worthy or good enough or whatever. So then binge eating starts. Or you may do well and then like your husband gets sick, or your kids have soccer practice, or life just gets busy and you quit going to the gym, and that was the thing that caused the spiral. There's a pattern in there. So my question is, what happens every single time you've tried to do this? Now, I would urge everyone, if you want to get tactical about this, I think everyone listening should take a minute, or something like 10, 20, 30 minutes today with a pen and paper and go, what happens every time? Every time I've made progress and lost it, what's happened? Oh, you know what? I do get busy. Work gets crazy, or the kids get nuts, or my husband doesn't support me and I get discouraged and I say, fuck it. Or I do well. I go super hard until I can't take it anymore. Then I have one slip up and I say I'm an all or nothing person, right? This is where everyone's different, but everyone has a pattern, but we need to identify the pattern, because now we can course correct. Otherwise you're fighting something you don't know exists. Here's the other piece with sabotage. You have to understand what triggers sabotage. So we'll say what always happens. So that's data. We'll put that over here on this plate. Number 2 is understanding what causes sabotage. The number one, this is going to be a light bulb moment for a lot of people. The number one catalyst for sabotage is progress. Sabotage doesn't do anything when it doesn't kick you when you're down. It just doesn't, it turns off. Your sabotage mechanisms are more like your thermostat on your wall than anything else. If your thermostat, this is where identity comes into it. If your thermostat is set at 70 degrees and your house temperature is set at 70 degrees, what's your AC do?
Nothing.
It shuts off.
Yeah.
It literally kicks off. Like if you have it on auto, it literally kicks off. Well, what happens if your kid leaves the door open on a sunny day and now that room heats up to 80?
That's going to kick on.
It kicks on. Your thermostat goes, whoa, wait. We're set at 70. The environment's 80. We got to fix this because this is not where we're set at. And it cools the room off. So a lot of people, this is where identity comes in. If your identity is, let's say, a binger, you're like, oh, I'm trying to lose weight, but I'm a binger. I've always been a binger. It's who I am. I've always done it. I'm a dieter, whatever. And then all of a sudden you go 3-4 weeks without binge eating. Something's going to happen and it's going to cause you to binge, maybe a stressful time and you're an emotional eater, right? Whatever it is. Or let's say you view yourself as a very common one I see is you might have the identity or the self-image of I'm a fat, worthless piece of shit, because most people's identities and self-image is terrible. You view yourself as a fat, unworthy piece of shit who is worthless. That's where most people view themselves. Well, what happens when you start working with Chris or start listening to content and all of a sudden you start losing some weight? Follow your Instagram. You're like, oh yeah, I did that calorie deficit thing. It's working. But your identity is I'm a fat, worthless piece of shit who won't amount to anything. But they followed your advice and they lost a little bit of weight. Well, now what's going to happen is the identity is threatened, because fat, unworthy piece of shits don't lose weight effortlessly. So you're going to lose weight effortlessly. And then all of a sudden something's going to happen and you're going to fall off, or you're going to have a binge session. Something is, and it's going to bring you back to where your identity is set at. So you have 2 options. You can either keep grinding this hellacious uphill battle, which it will win. If your identity is made up of things that you don't like about yourself, you're always going to sabotage back to it, or you could just reset your identity and set it to on your terms this time. This is where it gets really, really deep. And this is what's funny, guys, is when Chris and I met in Arizona at Coaching Con, this was my talk. I was one of the speakers, and I did an entire talk on identity, but how your business reflects it. It doesn't matter what the result. I should just say this: your results reflect your identity. Mm-hmm. If it's in business, it was basically, the talk was on how my identity, I would always sabotage my business unconsciously because my self-image and my identity was shit. I viewed myself as a poor, broke, unworthy person. So then my business would do well. Then something would happen. And it would take me back down to being poor, broke, and worthless. Right. But it's the same thing here. Your results in any area in your life will reflect who you think you are. Money, relationships, marriage, friendships, business, really weight loss. Like that's a big one. It's every single time. Like this is one of the reasons, if like you've been overweight your whole life, and you view yourself as that, like this shows you a big identity piece. Most people who lose weight, their identity is, I'm a fat person that lost weight, not I'm a really lean, healthy person that's just going through a rough time. Do you see the difference? Most people, even when they lose weight, they're like, nope, I am a fat hog that just got lucky and lost 50 pounds. But their identity is still the fat version of themselves, versus it should be the other way around. This is where you can't let your external circumstances dictate how you feel about yourself, right? So you could be overweight right now. You could be 50 pounds overweight, but your identity needs to go to the version of yourself you want to become. And then your results will catch up to that over time, because you can't let your identity be based on external circumstances. Case in point, when a lot of people actually, you said, Chris, you said you have a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When you and your wife found out you're pregnant, did you have to have the kid before you started viewing yourself as dad?
No.
It was as soon as your wife pissed on that stick.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
As soon as she came down, I was like, I'm pregnant. It's like, oh shit. Yeah. It's a little bit of an identity crisis.
Your dad.
Yeah.
You didn't wait. Well, let me see what it looks like when it comes out. No, as soon as you made the identity shift before the child came here. Yep. Let me ask you this. If all of a sudden, Uncle Bill Gates decided to wire you $500 million, but it won't be here for like another month, but he's like, here, I'm sending it to you. Would your identity not shift that you're wealthy?
Oh, it would totally shift.
Right. But the money's not in your account yet. So this is the important part, guys. But if you made that shift, you walk different, you talk different, your habits are different, your actions are different. So this is why you don't have to wait till the external is here before you can make the internal shift. You can decide who you want to be. Now, I'm not saying this is just an affirmation thing where you're like, yes, I'm wealthy, or yes, I'm fit. And then all of a sudden you're going to magic genie it. But what I'm saying is this is where it starts. You have to understand your results are always late to the party, and they're a lagging indicator. Mm-hmm. You're like right now, like all of our physiques are based off the last year of what our actions were. Not the last week, not the last month, the last year of so everyone's current reality is an artifact. It's a history lesson of the last year. It's lagging. So if you want to change your physical self, you have to become a different person. And the fruits of your labor, let's just say, aren't going to show for a year. Of course, things are going to start to change, but just to make it easy, just assume the fruits of your labor are not going to show for a year. So my question is, we could clean slate you, who do you think you are? Like one of my favorite things, because so much of your sabotage is caught up in your identity and who you think you are, because you're on autopilot 90% of the day. Mm-hmm. And you unconsciously, please hear me when I say this, everyone, you unconsciously act in congruence with who you think you are. So when you say, I'm gonna start over Monday, that's not what that version of you would do. That's what the current version of you would do. That's overweight. When you go, I'm an all or nothing person, you're validating a bad decision. You're like, I'm going to eat the whole thing of Oreos because I'm an all or nothing person, right? That's when we make that decision. You don't like smart off to your wife and go, you know what, I'm an all or nothing person, then then beat her. Like, you don't do that, right? So you have to understand that you need to decide who you are before results happen. You know what I mean? And that's where most people, though, let me see if I can say this right. Most people choose to stay the shitty version of who they are because somehow they got here, versus deciding who you want to be and just becoming that. We all love the story of rags to riches. We all love the story of someone who is like drug addicted their whole life and they go, enough is enough, and change their life. We all love the story of someone who's been in like a narcissistic, abusive relationship and they break free from it. But every person who loves it, it's like, no, but this is how I've always been. I've always been fat, or I've always been a binger. It's just who I am. You don't have to be like that. You can change your life like this. It's a decision. Most people just take 30 years to make that decision. But you can make that decision now It's really simple. It's not easy. It's simple. Then all you do is put your entire filter on life through that version of you. If I go, well, what would that version of me do? How's that version of me talk, walk, act, smell, emotional, all emotional stuff? How does that person operate? When I get to a crossroads, I don't know what to do, or I know what to do, but I don't do it. What would that version of me do? Okay, well, I guess say fucking do it. And now you're reinforcing it until what happens is eventually you do that long enough, your actions have changed. Now you're going to have a stack of irrefutable proof that you are who you say you are, the new identity. This is how we go about shifting it. But you have to decide who the fuck you want to be. Now, a lot of times right around now, I get flack. People are like, man, Jared, I just can't just decide, whip out who I want to be. Cool. So here's your prompt. This is what we have all of our clients do. This is one of the most powerful exercises that we'll have our people do. And if you take it seriously, it's game changing. So, I want you to, everyone listening to this who's like, I just don't know who I want to be and all this stuff. I want you to play out this scenario like it actually is going to happen. If all of a sudden you woke up and you are in a doctor's office on a table, all of a sudden you come up and you're like, oh shit, why am I strapped to this table? And why is my head, why do I have a headache? Doctor comes in, doctor says, hey, I got some bad news, but you got in a car accident, a really bad one, and I got to go in and do brain surgery to get you on the other side. But here's the hard part. We're going to go, your surgery's going to start in like an hour. But here's the deal. I might hit the reset button by accident. This is a big surgery. And I just might accidentally reset your brain, like Men in Black style, like that thing. They're like, you may wake up and have no idea who you are, who your family is, anything. Like that's the only chance I have of me getting you out of this, but there's a 50-50 shot. I'm going to hit the reset button.
Oh shit.
And he slides you a notebook and he says, I want you to write down. I want you to just, so you have it to read when you wake up. I want you to write yourself a letter. Tell him what happened. Tell yourself what happened in case this happened, in case I do reset it. And I want you to but write who you are. Like you can get into who your family is so you know everyone, but I want you to really let yourself know who you actually are. So my question to you listening is, what would you put in that letter? Would you put in how fat you've been? Would you put in how like confident you've had? No, how you've never been confident? Would you put in like you're a binger? I don't know anyone that would. I can tell you right now, I would lie like a motherfucker. And I'm like, I'm a billionaire. I'm in the peak physical condition. I just went through some shit, so I'm a little out of shape right now, but I'm actually like an athletically built dude, like whatever. I would tell this most Superman like story. And I think if everyone was honest, I think everyone here would.
Yep.
But here's 100%. The thing. You don't have, because I mean, but here's the thing. You don't have to wait till you're getting ready to go into a coma or get your brain reset to do that. You can do that right now. One of my favorite quotes, I don't even know who said it, and it's so true. It's, you have no responsibility to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. But here's the crazy thing. It's like, how does this have anything to do with sabotage? Is because the reason you're sabotaging is because your identity is fucked. You're operating out of the shitty version of yourself because you've had some shitty results. So you just think it's who you are. I mean, I drive a Corvette right now, but if I go inside my garage and go vroom, 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 that doesn't mean I'm a Corvette. It means I'm Jared making Corvette noises. Right. But imagine if I went into my garage and went rum, 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 and I go, yeah, I'm a Corvette. It's my identity. Everyone would think I'm fucking crazy. They're like, no, you're Jared making Corvette noises. You have to understand, for those that are listening, just because you struggle with something, it doesn't mean it's who you are. It just means it's something you did. Right? Just because you've ate, that's a verb. It doesn't mean you're a binger. That's a noun. Just because you've emotionally eaten your whole life, that's a verb. It doesn't mean you're an emotional eater. My only disclaimer is if you're like a pedophile, okay, that's you did some bad shit. That's an identity. You go fuck yourself. That's bad. But other than that, it doesn't matter. If you've yo-yo dieted your whole life, that doesn't make you a yo-yo dieter. Because you know what happens? When your identity is made up of the things that you do not like about yourself, your unconscious mind, your subconscious, will make it fucking impossible to change it, because you have to understand that your brain doesn't give a shit if you're happy. It's only about self-preservation. It's like the way your brain works. It's literally one of those things where it goes, well, I know we hate it here. This your reality sucks, but at least it feels familiar. So I know I'm not going to die. I'll know what to expect. Your heart wants you to be happy. That's why there's this heart brain dissonance where it's like, I don't know what to do. But this is why it's so important understanding sabotage is if you sabotage, because it's just following a pattern. If you've fallen off every 3 months in the last decade, you're going to feel this desire to fall off in 3 months. But also, we have to double check your identity. Like, who do you think you are? Because you act in alignment with who you are when you weren't thinking about it, which is the majority of the time. And those are the two biggest pieces to identity. It's just like think about like a drug addict. If we use these two analogies, if a drug addict does drugs every day at noon, and they've done drugs every single day at noon, and they're out at noon, they're going to feel just from a habitual side, I need to go get my fix. Or I know, and Chris, you have glasses, but for those that don't have glasses, like when they if you worn glasses forever and you get contacts, you'll find yourself shoving your finger up your nose like this, on the bridge of your nose, because you're just used to the physical pattern of, for the last decade, I've slid my glasses up my nose, but you don't have glasses now, but the reaction will still be there. The unconscious habit will be there. So we have to prepare for that in the world of fat loss. But also with drug addicts, if they're like, no, I'm a drug addict, my whole family's been drug addicts, and they make it part of their identity, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's really two sides. If we had to just distill it into two categories, who do you think you are? You're going to act in alignment with that identity. We got to change that. But then also, like, what always happens? What do you always do every single time? And then then the fixes to both of those is, for the identity, do the coma letter, actually do it. And then for the actions, we just got to put a plan in place. If this, then what? If you say, here are my list of the 5 things that happens every time I've sabotaged the last 5 years. The scale spikes, I fall off. The scale drops, I fall off. I get busy and fall off. Whatever the things are, let's be logical. Let's play what I call the if this, then what game. If this happens, the scale spikes. Then what am I going to do? Don't wait till you're in the heat of the moment to make decisions. Like, your intelligent self right now should be like, okay, well, I'm going to do this happens. I'm going to do this. If all of a sudden I want to quit because I'm not motivated, I'm going to say, too bad. I'm going to do it, keep doing the thing anyway, or whatever. Create your plan. This way, you don't, one of my favorite sayings is stay ready so you don't have to get ready. This way, you're ready for it. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. If you know that sabotage is going to hit, you're ready for that shit. All of a sudden, it's, I've never seen the movie, but I get the premise. You know, the Purge movies?
Yeah. I've never seen them, but I know the premise.
You get the general consensus.
Yeah.
Well, so I view, like, think about the Purge. If the Purge actually happened, for those that don't know, the Purge it's just a movie series, but it's like a horror movie series where one day out of the year, one 24-hour period, nothing is illegal. Murder, rape, pillaging, it's all legal. So, Chris, I'm curious, if all of a sudden, if tonight at midnight the Purge started, are you sleeping tonight?
Hell no.
Are you getting the thing that you probably killed that deer without?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Are your doors going to be locked?
Uh-huh.
Are you going to board your windows?
Yep.
Interesting. Why?
Because the Purge is happening and I'm not letting anyone in.
Because you know something is something has a really high probability of happening, and it's even on the calendar. It's a no different, guys, with sabotage. Don't act like, oh, I'm hopping on a different diet this time or working with a different coach. I'm not going to sabotage. No, you're going to sabotage just the same. It's a pattern. So what always happens? How does the Purge work? Oh, it's on this calendar. This is all the things. It's no different with sabotage. What always happens? Oh, I lose motivation. Maybe we should put a framework in for when I lose motivation. Well, what always happens? I step on the scale, and when it doesn't give me the number I want, I freak out and binge. Well, maybe we should be ready. Don't avoid the scale, because that doesn't help either. Maybe we should put in a plan. Maybe I should reach out to my coach then. Maybe I should commit right now that I'm not going to give up. Maybe I should just give myself 5 minutes to throw a hissy fit, and then don't make decisions in that hissy fit, right? But this is what we're going to do. This is one of my other favorite examples. Chris, how old's your kid?
18 months.
Okay. A little early then. So let me ask you this. I'm sure you know the answer. Do you think, is it a boy or girl?
Girl.
Oh, even better. Okay. Are you going to have the sex, drugs, and peer pressure talk at some point?
Yes.
Ideally before or after an instance happens?
Ideally before an instance happens.
Right. Like, kids are getting ready to go into middle school, and it's like, all right, let's have the sex, drugs, and peer pressure talk.
Yep.
Most parents listening probably would say the same thing. I love asking that to parents. I'm like, when did you have the sex, drugs, and peer pressure talk? And they go, oh, about this time. I go, oh, interesting. Right before shit was probably going to happen, huh? And they go, yeah. And I say, well, why? So, Chris, why are you going to give your daughter the sex, drugs, and peer pressure talk when hasn't happened yet?
Because there's a high probability that if I don't do it, she's going to make a bad decision.
Sabotage is what it sounds like. It sounds like just in a different area in life.
Yep.
Interesting. So you logically foresee this issue that happens to every other child going into middle school. And you go, I don't want my daughter to fall victim to that. So I'm going to play the if this, then what game. Hey, honey, if this happens, here's what I want you to do. They're going to say it's fine. This is what they actually mean. They're going to give you this to try. You're going to probably play out the scenarios. It's so because you don't want her to get into that heated moment and make the decision. You want her decision made like right now, you know. Sabotage, for those of you listening, is no different. It's literally the same way.
So logically think ahead of like for most people, I feel this is anywhere between weeks 8 and 12 in the diet.
Easily.
Easily in within that time frames. For a lot of people, it's actually before, and then it's like if this it's happened every time. So
Mm-hmm.
when that happens, what are you going to do about it? So I like the hissy fit and then don't do anything stupid.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. What do you do with your kid? Like when a kid throws a hissy fit. Yours, I don't know about yours. Might be a little young for that. I don't know.
No, she's been
Um,
in timeout
okay, there you go. But this is why like we need to feel our feelings and not believe everything we think. It's crazy to me. Is your daughter talking yet?
a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say when she's like let's fast forward to like 4, where
Okay.
like they're really starting to like play with outlets and do stupid shit, right? They're super toddlers. Well, are you going to believe every single thing that your daughter says and thinks? Is it automatically going to be true at that 4-year-old stage?
No way.
Right? She's gonna be like, "Daddy, you're stupid," and it's like, "Oh, you know what, honey? Daddy is stupid. You're right." Like it would be ignorant to do that. For those listening,
Mm-hmm.
imagine if you made the golden rule in your house: everything your kid says is instantly true. It would be pure chaos. Well, why is it then here's the thing, psychology teaches us we all have an inner child. So why is it we make everything our inner child says true? You're worthless. Oh my gosh, I must be worthless. You're a binger. Oh my gosh, I must be a binger. You're a lost cause. Oh my gosh, I must be a lost cause. Because you feel it or think it, you instantly think it's true. Stop being so quick to believe everything you think and feel. Hold space for it, yes. Believe it, no. It's like when your kid's scared of the boogeyman. Oh my gosh, I'm so scared. Like, so Chris, if your daughter is like, Daddy, I'm so scared someone's in the closet, I would bet you're going to have this beautiful balance of not denying her reality. You're like, oh, honey, it's okay to be scared. Being scared's okay. But you're also not going to feed into it and say, you know what, there is the boogeyman because you feel like he's in there. You're probably going to hold space for her emotions because you don't want to suppress
Right.
that. That's not good. But you're also probably going to logically show her there's no boogeyman. And
Yep.
it doesn't even make logical sense there'd be a boogeyman. Like, look, the dog's even laying out here and he's not even barking. Like, he's not in there. But it's the same thing with us. We need to hold space for what we feel and what we think, but not believe it. Just because you think it, and I mean, it's just an inner child throwing a hissy fit. That's all it is.
Yep. It's just figuring out your emotions and then being like, these thoughts are stupid.
Not even figuring them out. It's like I view emotional regulation like going to the bathroom. This is why I think this is why I want another thing that I say a lot is outer work without inner work doesn't work. Outer work, fitness, nutrition,
Yep.
without inner work, emotional regulation and holding space doesn't work. So why you'll do good for a while, then you'll emotionally eat or whatever the case is. This is where we need inner work. So like if everyone listening to this, if I asked you, are you going to go through, is it logical to think you're going to go through life with all emotions all over the place, up, down, and sideways, inside out? And everyone goes, well, yeah. Well, then doesn't it make sense that we have a system in place to hold space for those emotions and process them in a healthy therapeutic like way where it doesn't become problematic? It's like really logical, right? Well, I view it like going to the bathroom. Well, if we eat food every day, we're probably going to have to go to the bathroom every day.
Mm-hmm.
But we all happen to have at least one bathroom in our house, some 2, 3. And then we all have it easily accessible. It's because it's logical. We're going to eat every day. We're going to take a shit every day. It's the same thing. But then my thing is, if we all go through stress and chaos and anxiety and have life be crazy, it's logical to think we're going to experience a lot of emotions, but we don't have the emotional toilet. We don't have a system to process these emotionally, because it's no different than your digestion. What happens if one day you go, I'm not allowed to poop ever again? For real. It's like, it's going to get really fucking messy.
It's going to get bad. Yeah.
Right. But that's where most people are at emotionally. Most people are emotionally constipated. They go, ooh, anxiety, I don't want to feel. And we distract with food or work or kids or life or busyness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that means emotion. We need to, feeling is healing. We need to let emotions come in, hold space, feel them. I know, how dare us feel our feelings, and then they dissipate and go away. It's just like going to the bathroom. Here's what's funny though. Going to the bathroom isn't a pleasant experience either. No one, like, going to the bathroom isn't comfortable. It smells bad. We do it in privacy and it's gross. And sometimes it just doesn't feel good, but we know it's a foundational thing we have to do every day.
Well, you
No
feel
one,
good afterwards.
yeah, you feel good afterwards. No one likes to talk about it though. You're not taking pictures and showing your friends. Like it's gross.
Yeah.
But we know it's a necessary evil. It's not even evil, it's a necessary thing we have to do. Well, our emotions are no different. You feel stress, you bottle that shit up, it's going to get stored in your body and it's going to get bad. You struggle with anxiety and you're like, I'm going to avoid it. Now it chases you. You go through all this stuff, lonely, tired, overwhelmed, debilitated, sad. But if you don't let yourself feel them, you're just bottling them up in the same way if you didn't let yourself take a shit. The problem is you can bottle your emotions for a decade and not think twice about it, but it will still blow up on you, which is why we have to hold space for what we feel and allow ourselves to process them. This is where everyone gets kind of butthurt, like you would do for your best friend. Chris, all of a sudden, if I called you, let's just say, I don't know where I
Mhm.
called you, I'm like, bro, my wife cheated on me and I'm just a fucking wreck.
Oh shit.
What would
Yeah.
you say to me?
Um, fuck. That would be a tough conversation. So I'd probably be like, yo, dude, I'm here for you.
Oh, you'd hold
Um,
space for me.
yeah.
You wouldn't say, well, be quiet, go eat cereal.
No.
Right. You would be
No, absolutely not.
because you're a good person, you would go, bro, I'm so sorry. You want to talk about it? You would hold space for me.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when your daughter gets a little bit older and she has a bad day at school or another kid broke her favorite stick and she's sad. You're not going to go, you're not allowed to be sad around daddy. Daddy's only here for fun. Go work harder. Go distract yourself, you little fuck. Like you wouldn't do that.
No.
You would go, come here. But
Yep.
most people going through their own shit, they don't do that. They reject. They want to fix. They want to deny those emotions. And it's no wonder you got issues. It's no wonder you have issues in fat loss. You have this inner child that's all fucking all over the place. So this is why we have to approach this, like I said, from the inside out. It's a whole different world.
100%. That was, I mean, it's so many things you're saying. I'm like, yep, I've done this with this client. I've done this. These clients are currently going through this right now. Yep. I always say like going back to like that version of yourself you're trying to become. I always tell my clients, it's like, what would you 2.0 do? And that it's like bridging that gap
Mm-hmm.
between you now and that future self where it's like you're happy, confident, you've lost the weight, you're keeping it off. Like, what are those things that person's doing? They're probably going, well, they work out all the time. Yeah. Okay, cool. You are now. They eat right. Yeah, you are now. What else? Well, they probably take time to like manage their stress and they're
Mm-hmm.
journaling and they're doing, oh, so all these other things not related to macros and exercise. Yep.
Yep. That's my biggest argument too. Is I go, well, you're more than body fat and muscles. Maybe we should do more than work out and track calories.
Right. It's
You know?
a lot of people think, oh, it's like coming to coaching and then it's some magical macro formula of like, oh, I never knew it's 31% carbs. That was what I was missing.
Well,
No, it,
and here's the thing. Don't get me wrong. Those things, yes, they have their like a macro breakdown or workouts, calories deficit stuff. Those all have their utility, but very basic entry level coaches are just macro calculators. That's
mhm.
what the majority is. They send you a program, they send everyone else, they pop your shit into MyFitnessPal. They just don't tell you, and they say, yeah, here's what you should. Here's your macro split. Let me know if you need anything, and that's it. Versus like, no, how's your headspace? What's your stress level like? Hey, how are you feeling? Like the whole 9 yards. That's why that's the majority though of coaches. They're just little pimped out macro calculators with muscles. So
Yeah, I had a client, she messaged me the other day and she's going through like this really hard time at work. Just like walked her through like how to communicate with her bosses and all processing her anger and frustration and everything. And then all of a sudden the next day she's like, I just talked to them and I talked to like the high up and they're going to talk to my manager. And they said that what I'm going through will never happen again in this company. It's like,
wow,
holy shit, that's amazing. Um, so yeah, coaches like us, we're doing way more than just like macros and here's a copy and paste workout.
yeah, absolutely, 100%.
All right. So that was a lot.
Some mental heavy lifting here today.
That's
So
a lot. Like people will have to like rewind and re-listen to this whole podcast.
yeah.
Um, so let's just make it simple. Like in the last couple minutes here, where should someone like take the information they just got over the last 50 minutes and like start implementing right away? If you could do like 3 steps or 5 steps or whatever would work
Yeah, yeah.
best for you.
I would say so. The last thing I want you guys to do that are listening, the last thing I want you to do is try to implement all this stuff or just go, yeah, 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 that sounds cool, and then not do shit. And then you still have the same shitty results. Um, if there was one piece that resonated with you, just do that one piece. Holding space for my emotions sounds really dope. Just start with that. Forget everything else. Or so some of you, it was like, oh wow, the whole identity thing seemed pretty dope. Like that letter. I feel like that's where I need to. Everyone's going to resonate with something different, and that means because everyone needs to do something different. But I would say if there's a piece that made your ears perk a little bit, go do that one thing and do it for like just do it ruthlessly. Write the letter, line the or if it's the identity, like align all your actions with that. But if I had to pick, if someone's like, no, Jared, you pick what I do, I would say this. I would say start with your identity, because if you get your identity in check, everything else takes care of itself. You will make the better decisions. You will unconsciously, like if because of identity's fucked up, you can unconsciously sabotage, and your old identity can pull you down. The right identity will pull you out of a hole.
Mm,
It's why you see people, it's like they unconsciously make better decisions, and they unconsciously like don't skip workouts, and they unconsciously prioritize the right things. It's because their identity is in check. It's also the same reason why no one listening to this probably is going like losing their house. It's because you have an identity around your money and your lifestyle. So you unconsciously do all the things to hold it. Like you may go through a rough time financially, but you're not losing your house. You're not feeding your kids.
yep.
It's because you have an identity around that. So it may get like it's like even like money. You have a financial identity where some people like they'll let their bank account get to like $3, but it'll never go in the negatives. Or some people will go $100 in the negatives, but they'll never go $200 in the negatives. So I would say if you had to pick one thing, is you need to figure out your identity and actually choose it on your terms this time, because you're aligning your actions with some semblance of an identity. It's just the one that someone else put in you when you were helpless. So when your mom said, "Oh, we're all big boned. We've never been ones to be like that." The guys, I'm telling you, there's no reason I should be where I'm at right now in life. I grew up without money. I grew up in a small town. Half of that small town was on drugs. I grew up with people saying, "Oh, people like us, yeah, we're lucky if we do this." That's how
Shit.
I grew up. Like I'm like literally, I have a buddy of mine. He goes, "Man, with guys who grew up like us, if we make 100, we're lucky if we make 100 grand a year." And I'm like, I want to be astronomically successful, and I'm like, I want to be like so successful, it's unrecognizable in all areas, not just in financially in my business, but I'm talking about my relationships, my happiness, my experiences. And if someone like me can do what I've done, there's no fucking reason any of you can't. I mean, just remember, there's someone who's had it worse, who has it worse, who's less deserving, who's living everything you want, and there's no reason you can't. You just have to start pulling the right levers. So
Yep.
I would say let's start with your identity, because nothing else matters if you don't have that in place. So
Awesome. I mean, every year, the past 2 years I've been in coaching con, there's always been someone where they're like, what last year, I forget the speaker, but he was convicted convict and now he's very successful. I'm not sure how successful he is, but extremely successful. I don't know what his bank account looks like, but it's one of those like in
dude was in the
jail.
penitentiary for 15 years, and now
Yes,
he's like
that guy.
has a business. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Right. So it's like he's had it pretty bad. He
Yeah.
literally had nothing. And now amazing business. He's fed. I think he's married.
I think so too.
So it's like now has it all like you can do it too. Like,
hmm
but he had to do a lot of identity shifting. I think he talked about that.
hmm
Um, it's just he was forced to versus and got literally hit rock bottom versus like you don't need to hit rock bottom. That's
Yeah.
not a good feeling.
Learn off of someone else's rock bottom.
Yes. Don't don't hit rock bottom because that is if you don't get out, you're in rock bottom and it's a really bad place to be. But yeah, if you rebound, awesome. We can do it before then though. Like,
Yeah.
why did you have to go all the way to rock bottom?
hmm
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
That
man.
hour
Appreciate
went
it.
really quick.
It did. It did.
So we'll definitely have to have you on again. So where can people find you online?
Easiest spot if you like my cup of tea. If you like this kind of content, I have a podcast that's called Dieting from the Inside Out, and it's only deep shit. So definitely check that out. It's everywhere podcasts are found, or you can go to my podcast site dietingfromtheinsideout.com, and
Awesome.
we have everything there. Like, we do full length videos that are on YouTube. We blog the entire thing, so the whole episode is all episodes are transcribed into blogs if you're into that. We have all the resources there. And then if you like shorter kind of content like TikToks and Instagram Reels and stuff, you can find me there at Real Jared Hamilton on Instagram and TikTok. And then if you like a little bit more of a community vibe, and we're a little bit, you have more questions and things like that, I do have a Facebook group called Fat Loss Simplified. Just search that in Facebook and join, and you can join my community. So yeah, but I appreciate you having me
Awesome.
on, man. This is dope.
Yeah. Thank you. So all those will be down in the show notes, guys. So if you want to go follow Jared, want to check out his podcast, just click down below and you'll be able to binge on any of his stuff.
I love it.
Awesome. Thank you.